This is Tovia Singer taking you on a shark dive. Sharks have to be the most fascinating animals, but for many people, the most frightening. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to give you some exposure to some of the most extraordinary creatures in the sea. And I filmed this in the Bahamas so that you could see what it's like to come into contact, not with one or two sharks, but with in a huge shark feed, and you're going to see what I mean. The water temperature is about 72 degrees, but that's not really important here. You're looking at reef sharks, generally range between 6 to 8 feet, maximum about 10 feet. The females are a little larger than the males. But here's the key point. I'm shooting this film. There's no cage around me, and there's no cage around the other divers that are here, with a 15 millimeter fisheye lens. Fisheye has nothing to do with fish, but what it means is that this image is 180 degrees. But because this is such a wide-angle lens where I'm capturing more than your eyes would see, everything seems further away than it actually is. So a shark that appears to be just 10 feet away is no more than 3.5 feet away. These are magnificent creatures, and they have no interest in eating people, contrary to what some people think. So here we are, a whole bunch of divers, all sitting around, no one's in a cage, and what we're going to see is reef sharks and maybe a nurse shark. A tiger shark could have shown up, but on this dive, none did. And I'm going to see something fascinating. The visibility in the water here isn't bad. It's probably around 50, 60 feet or so. But the way sharks find their food, what they're looking for, because humans are not on their menu, but it's their sense of smell, where they can detect fish blood in the water. They're not interested in being around divers. Now, these are sharky waters. I don't know if sharky is a technical term, but these are sharky waters. But how many sharks do you see right now? Probably 4, 5, 6. But we're going to do something to make these numbers go up exponentially, and that is introduce bait, chum the water. Look up at the top of your screen right now, and you're going to see a diver coming down holding a box. Now watch what happens to the number of sharks that show up. In that box are fish pieces, fish blood, and that's now being introduced into water. Once the sharks smell that, they can't see it. They just detect even the most minute particle in the water. They're going to immediately gather around them. Remember a moment ago, we were looking at 2, 3, 4 sharks, 5 sharks. Try to count the number of sharks that are showing up right now. But again, these sharks are all hovering above us. Some of them are, fairly large. I would imagine the average shark here is about 8, 9 feet. There are a couple of them that are about 10 feet long. The males are a little bit smaller. And as the shark feeder is coming down, the sharks are going into a kind of feeding frenzy, and that gives us all the opportunity to observe this. No cage, there's nothing separating me from these sharks, but again, sharks have no interest in attacking people. We're not on their menu. And the only reason why occasionally someone gets bitten by a shark is because of a mistaken identity. But that's not going to happen to a diver, because a shark can see you completely. They're not going to confuse you for anything else. Now, you might be asking yourself the question, why am I doing this? Because I think that God's creation is marvelous. I think that sharks are magnificent. They're the apex predators of the ocean. They're what keep the oceans very healthy. And unfortunately, they're being slaughtered for shark fin soup. The number's about 100 million a year. It's a tragedy. And just so you know that, unlike most fish that have, lay eggs and, lay thousands of eggs, these sharks give birth to live, fully functional juveniles, but they only have 3, 4, 5, 6 babies at a time. So they're fragile. And here we see the sharks right in front of the camera. As I said, they're about 3 times as close to me as they appear. Aren't they just magnificent creatures? They're kind of, some of them moving a little quicker than others, no more than, the fastest ones you're going to see here are moving probably no more than 3, 4, 5 miles an hour. But these sharks are capable of speed sometimes going up to over 20 miles an hour. And they're all gathered around the shark feeder. Now look carefully at the shark feeder, and you'll notice that she's wearing a helmet and an all-steel chainmail suit, obviously to protect her. And the photographers will as well. And you're probably wondering to yourself, well, I just finished telling you that sharks do not want to eat people. They don't like the way we look. They hate the way we taste. They're not interested in attacking humans. If they were, we wouldn't be able to ever swim in the oceans because these are very powerful creatures. The shark's skin feels like sandpaper, and they're powerful. If you ever sort of hit one or just touch or try to push it, it's like you're hitting a bus. I mean, they're powerful. Their strength, their ability is enormous. But the people who are involved in feeding the sharks, they have slight danger confronting them in that because they're taking little pieces of fish out of that box and feeding them to the sharks, controlling them, keeping them there. Remember, these sharks would never be swimming around us in this manner if we weren't chumming the water. Because sharks, as I said, are very skittish of people. They ignore you completely. They get away from you. They're not interested in you. But once you introduce the blood and the fish smell, the dead fish, pieces of fish into the water, their sense of smell, which is extraordinary, just explodes. Bear in mind that in the waters, what is the visibility in the oceans? Not that much. You can have really high visibility of 100 feet, but that's not the way sharks find, animals. You can't see that far. What a shark is using is mostly its sense of smell. It also can pick up electromagnetic waves or noises of a distressed fish. But the sight plays a role, but a relatively minor role in the shark finding its food. So right now the sharks are kind of in a frenzy. They're all excited about what's in the water right now. They're all excited about the smell. They're moving around trying to get a piece of it. Now, if the shark feeder hands a piece of fish with a spear to one of the sharks and that shark bites down on it, a little piece of fish might fall off and fall on the feeder, and that's why the feeder needs to be in the metal chainmail, because sharks, as you can imagine, hate the way the taste of metal feels. One other thing about sharks, there are about 350 species of them in the world. With very few exceptions, they have a very specific, meticulous diet. They eat specific types of things, of fish. They don't have these varied diet. There are some exceptions, like the tiger shark, which will eat just about anything. It's called the garbage can of the sea. But these sharks have very, very specific foods on their menu that they're interested in. What is being introduced here is what's getting them really excited. And look at the shape of the shark. You can see that it's an animal designed for speed, power. It's all muscle. No bones, it's cartilage. It's just designed to be a hunter. But these are non-animals like mammals. They're thinking animals. As research continues into shark behavior and their cognitive behavior and so on, we're realizing sharks are a little more intelligent than we thought they were, but they're not like bears or lions or tigers that are have this real thinking going on, whether like in a good mood or a bad mood. Sharks, like other fish, are pretty much programmed. They'll basically do the same thing given the same stimulation. They respond in a very, very specific way. So you can predict what a shark is going to do. And one of the things a shark won't do is it won't attack a human. It doesn't want to taste what a human tastes like it. And God forbid when a shark does bite when there's an accident, it's all a mistaken identity. Look how close that shark came. In fact, as I'm filming this, there were a couple of times where I sort of got whipped in the back by the tail of a shark, kind of just swinging around behind me. But they're paying no attention to me. Notice how they're totally not interested in me at all. Now, how many sharks do you see there? It's hard to count. My guess would be that all around me there are probably about 40, 50 sharks. Almost all of them Caribbean reef sharks. Powerful animals, fascinating creatures. And God made them that they have these remarkable teeth. They're not fixed in their jaw like humans, but the teeth of sharks are embedded in their gums, and they're in rows and rows and rows of teeth, and they actually the rows of teeth spin around like a conveyor belt because they lose their teeth very easily. Sharks, by the way, are definitely not kosher, but those other little fish running around, those yellowtail snappers, are definitely kosher. Absolutely fascinating creature. And you can see that the feeders open the box, and with a prong, like a little spear, taking out a piece of fish, feeding one at a time to the sharks, and the sharks, of course, are just excited about the presence, the smell of what's going on. But to film these creatures, it's a tremendous privilege. It's so exciting to be able to be a part of this and to see this and to observe this without a cage, without anything between the sharks and myself, just to observe this creation of Hashem, of the Almighty, is amazing. In fact, when I was preparing to go down to the water, going down, and this, just so you know, we're about 36 feet below the surface. That's where the ocean floor is. Reef sharks are not sharks that go very deep typically. They typically stay in fairly shallow waters. But before I descended into this shark dive, made a blessing. Now, it could be that people watching me might have thought that I was praying that I don't get eaten by one of them, but actually I made a blessing, blessing God for the creation of the world, Ose Maise Bereshis, who creates all the wonders of creation, and this is truly a marvel. Look at these magnificent species. And, sharks are powerful. They're not particularly aggressive predators. Generally speaking, they take their time looking for what they're after. They're not going to chase things down like jacks do or other sort of more aggressive predators. They take their time. They love prey that's been injured. They don't want to work hard. They don't want to expend a lot of energy on catching the prey. In fact, they don't want to use up more energy catching a fish than the fish is going to give them. So it's all a program of creation. It's all a marvel that, look how close those sharks are. Those sharks right there, probably about a foot away from the front of my lens. And I'm shooting this with a Canon 5D Mark II in HD video. One of the most exciting dives of my life is to be with these creatures, to marvel at them. And I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have.
לנו על מי להישען, אלא אבינו שבשמיים. אשיר אליך את תפילותיי, אשיר אליך אלוהי, אתה המלך שובה אליי, ליבי אליך בכל חיי. אנחנו מאמינים נמאמין, אין לנו על מי להישען, אלא אבינו שבשמיים. אנחנו מאמינים נמאמין, אין לנו על מי להישען, אלא אבינו שבשמיים. אשיר אליך הושיענה, אשיר אליך הצליחה נא. אתה שומע כל תפילה, לירושלים תביא גאולה. אנחנו מאמינים נמאמין, אין לנו על מי להישען, אלא אבינו שבשמיים. אנחנו מאמינים נמאמין, אין לנו על מי להישען, אלא אבינו שבשמיים. אנחנו מאמינים נמאמין, אין לנו על מי להישען, אלא אבינו שבשמיים.